Nasreen Zankawah is a Ghanaian author, journalist, entrepreneur and winner of the Creative Leadership Award at the 2022 Global Youth Awards in London last November. In addition, she is an alumni of the Ghana Institute of Journalism and is currently pursuing a degree in law at the University of Ghana, and she's joining me today. Welcome, Nasreen.
Nasreen, thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you here. Nasreen, I know that you are really passionate about reading and writing. Where did your passion come from?
So my passion for reading began when I was just in primary 3. And before it began, my dad used to buy me books. He would buy me novels for children. And then after I'm done reading, he would ask me to narrate the entire story for him. So when I'm able to narrate it very well, he would give me a reward. So since then, I was always eager to read books he bought for me. And then it got to a time when I didn't even need any reward. I just got my own books. I began reading, and then I just developed my passion. And as I say, every reader can actually be a writer, just as every writer is a reader. So in class 6, I began writing. And then I started writing because I had a classmate of mine who was so good at writing. It actually got me, and I admired her a lot. So I told myself I could also try writing to see how it would turn out. So I began writing, all right, but then I wasn't okay with what I had written, because most people preferred reading her stories as compared to mine. So I knew I had to put in more effort. But then I just got discouraged. I didn't really get that motivation anymore. So I paused writing for a very long time. So when I got to my 3rd year in senior high school, I picked it up again. And this time when I did, I never stopped, actually. So I wrote a short story at first, gave it to a friend to read. But then when she read it, I realized she wasn't so intrigued by it. And then I knew there was something definitely wrong with it. So I had to change something. So I just had to read more broadly. I had to work on my creativity. I had to work on my writing skills. So when I got to the university, that's the Ghana Institute of Journalism, I did a course called the Creative Writing course. It was creative writing. And then we were asked to write a number of poems or short stories to publish and then present it to our lecturer for our grades. So I wrote about 40 points, and then after I was done, I realized this time it turned out so well, and I was impressed myself. So I started writing my first novel, The President's Bodyguard. But when I began writing The President's Bodyguard, I didn't really know I would publish it at first. It was just something I was trying to do. I was just trying to work on my writing. So I wanted to see how writing a short story this time would turn out. So I had the ending of the book. I knew how I wanted the book to end, but I didn't have a beginning. So I just started with my first my first sentence. Then, due to the books I had read previously and due to some movies I watched, I was able to think of some creative ideas, and I put all these together. So I started writing. Even though I wasn't consistent at first, I would write maybe once a week or once in 2 weeks. Then I got to the middle of the book. At first, my intention was to make it a short story, but I realized I was going on and on. I was always getting ideas on how to continue the book. So I continued. So when I got to my final year in the university, I knew this was a story that could actually sell if I tried. And I knew this was a story that people would love. Because Tanith, after I was done, I was so happy. I was so impressed. I read it all over again, and I was so impressed as compared to my previous writings. And I couldn't really believe that I was able to write this book and I was able to get to the end of this book. And then that was when I just decided that I was going to publish it. And then I did.
Oh, I love that.
Yes.
I love that, Nasreen. And I love the fact that you've been your biggest critic in terms of looking at it and going, no, not that, not that, not that, not that. And then looking at this and going, yes, I've done it. So you mentioned there that you obviously published your first book, which is The President's Bodyguard in 2020. And you've touched on a little bit. I love that you came up with the ending before you got the beginning. Tell us a little bit about what it's about, and also, you know, why you decided to write that specifically. What was it about that particular subject or that particular idea that really encaptured your imagination?
So the President's Bodyguard is a story of a young woman who gets expelled from the military. After she leaves the military, she finds it difficult getting other jobs because she is quite inexperienced in other fields. So any job she gets fired within a very short period. So eventually she applied to be a bodyguard at the Flagstaff House. That's where the president lives here in Ghana. And then after numerous attempts, she got called to the Flagstaff House to join the security team. So on a day of her orientation, she got to the Flagstaff House first. Other colleagues who were also recruited weren't available at that time. So she was given the opportunity to tour the Flagstaff House while waiting for her colleagues to join her for the orientation. Before she began the tour, she was specifically told not to enter certain offices because these offices were out of bounds. And then she was also told that there were inscriptions on these offices. So when you get to the office, you will see an inscription that says out of bounds. So you know that you're not supposed to enter this particular office. So she went round and then she came across a particular office, but this office didn't have an inscription. So she didn't know it was out of bounds. And besides, it was slightly open. So she just entered. When she entered, she saw a very beautiful office. She saw the picture of the president and his wife and daughter on the desk. And then she saw a very huge bookshelf. So she went to the bookshelf, scanning through the books, and then she heard footsteps from behind. So when she turned, she met a man who was so angry, and he asked her what she was doing in his office, and they got into a very heated argument. So the man threatened to call security, but the young lady, who is called Almas Abir, she pushed him and then ran out of the office before he could call security. Yeah. So she stepped out to the man she met at first. So when she got to the reception, she asked for the conference room where they were to have the orientation. And she was giving directions to the place again. But then this time she missed her way while finding that particular room. And then she found herself in the previous room she met the man. And this time the door was slightly open and then she saw blood on the floor. So she squat and then she dipped her finger in the liquid, then she realized it was blood. So it caught her curiosity and then she entered the office. She became curious and then she proceeded into the office. As soon as she got there, she realized the man she had met in that office was lying dead behind his desk.
Oh, goodness.
Yes. But before she could take any action, before she could do anything, the police were already in the office, telling her she was under arrest for murdering this particular man. Meanwhile, she hadn't even told anybody, she hadn't called anyone, she just saw the man and then the police just came in and all that. So she was arrested. Eventually, she was taken to jail and she had to go through the court process to prove her innocence. And so many things happened after that.
Yeah, so well, Nasreen, I don't want you to give away all the details because we want people to read the book, right? So I'm guessing that it will lead on somehow for her getting involved with the president. But as I said, let's not give away all the details because we want to make sure that people go and read the book. But it sounds very, very exciting and very, very intriguing. I definitely am going to put that on my list to read over the Christmas period, I think. And wonderful that that you've put together such an amazing plot. And I've got a feeling there will be some twists in there that we're not expecting also. So you won a Global Youth Award in November for creative leadership, which is clearly the right award for you based on what you've told us so far. How did it feel to be recognised internationally for the work that you're doing?
Well, to be honest, it was quite overwhelming for me because I've always wanted to be recognized locally and internationally for my work. But I didn't really know I would get recognized internationally so soon. Yes, because this year in March, I got an award here in Ghana. And so I actually told myself that I was going to put in much more effort to get my work across, just not only in Ghana, but outside Ghana as well. And that's when I had to become more serious with my blog, where I published so many short stories, poems, and quotes and articles, and so many things. I had to work hard on that. And then when I got the nomination for the Global Youth Awards, at first I was really surprised. So I had to cross-check to be sure it was really my name. I had to cross-check to be sure it was my name. And then when I was finally convinced it was my name, I was just so excited. I was so happy. I didn't really know what to do at that moment. But then I was so hopeful that since I was nominated, then I had this chance of winning the award. And so I prayed so hard, and then I just kept, so I went through all the processes I was asked to go through, and eventually I really did win the award. And it was so overwhelming, and I was so grateful. I became more motivated. I was inspired. Beautiful. Because I wanted more people to get to know my work, and I want to touch more lives with that as well. So winning this particular award is really a great deal for me, and I am so grateful for it, and I'm so excited.
Yeah, we are too, to have you on board as a global youth ambassador, because it means that, you know, you've got a global tribe now that you're involved in, which is really exciting. And it means that we can support and help you with the projects that you're working on. Speaking of which, you're currently working on a project called Read With Me. Tell us all about it. What is it and how does it work?
So Read With Me is a literary project, and it's a project that specifically focuses on children. So children in orphanages, children in deprived areas, and marginalized children as well. And I came up with this idea because I know there are numerous reading clubs, even in these orphanages. But with Read With Me, I actually want to be a part of these children. I want to be with them. I want to read with them. I want to have discussions with them. I just want to see their way of thinking and see how I can impact their lives positively, and see how I also build their interest in literacy. Just as mine was built from a very young age, I also want theirs also be built at that particular age. And who knows, they can also become a writer or even more. Yeah, so Read With Me just about touring these orphanages, these private areas, and having a feel of the lives of these children. And hopefully, I'm so hopeful that I'll be able to impact positively in their lives, and also try to guide them through the right path, and also career-wise. So that's basically it.
Beautiful, really beautiful. I love that you know, you were so inspired by reading through your family, and now you're doing the same for young underprivileged kids, basically. I think it's really, really wonderful. But Nasreen, you know, for you, what is your ultimate goal, both personally and professionally, and what are your future plans towards making that happen?
So my first goal is to become one of the best writers in Ghana, not only in Africa, but globally. I have so many role models. I just want to be like them. I just want my work to also impact others as well. So that's actually my first goal. I want to become one of the best writers. And I also want to excel in my journalism career as well. Because through journalism, I realize journalism is actually one career that you get to interact with people. You associate with people, get to know more about their lives, get to know more about social issues, and then in a way you are contributing to society. So I want to actually contribute to society, and with writing and with journalism, these two can actually help me get all these results I'm looking for. And also, as an entrepreneur, I also want to develop that aspect of my career as well, become one of the best entrepreneurs, and also through that impact others as well. Through that, I can also employ more people to join me in my cause. So that's basically it.
Oh, amazing, amazing, amazing. Well, of course, you're going to go on to absolutely achieve all of those things because you're incredible. And I'm excited to watch it develop, Nasreen. So I guess, my final question for you then is thinking about the world as a whole, and if there was one thing in the world that you could change, what would it be and why?
If there was one thing I could change, it would be eradicating poverty and child racism. I have actually realized that poverty is actually the root of most problems people face. Personally, that's what I think. Because due to poverty, most people aren't able to get what they really wish they could. But if we are able to eradicate poverty, people can easily get access to quality education. People can easily get to quality health care services. People could easily, fend for themselves, feed themselves without actually depending on anybody. And if this also happens, I'm sure that child racism will also be kept, because most of these kids on the streets aren't there by their own will. Most of these children are either orphans or are either from very, very deprived homes or communities, and they have no way of fending for themselves. So if everyone is able to fend for themselves, I'm sure that we wouldn't see anyone wandering around on the streets, or anyone begging for food, or anyone begging for clothes, or anyone living in very deplorable conditions just to study, as we can see in my country and other countries as well. Yeah, so if there's one thing I would like to change, is just to eradicate poverty.
Yeah, beautiful. And I wholeheartedly agree with you. I think, with having the funds, you can get the education, you can make sure your body's nourished, and if we could do that, that would be amazing. So thank you for sharing that with me. Nasreen, we're going to share the links to your book. We're going to share links to anything else that you would like to share. Thank you so much for chatting to me today, and I'm looking forward to working with you moving forward.
Thank you too. Thank you so much for having me.